Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, which is Pensions Module Get Started. My name is Sarah, and I'm joined today by my colleague Duncan, who is ready and waiting to answer your questions in the background. And remember, today is a part of our Pensions Discovery 2025 badge series. So if you attend at least 5 sessions, plus the quiz, you will earn your very own badge. But we will be talking about that a little bit later on towards the end of the session. So we'll start with a quick reminder of your auto-enrolment employer duties and give you an overview of the key features of the pensions module. Next, we'll walk you through the setup process. So I'll show you how to get up and running, whether you're a brand new payroll taking on your first employees or an existing payroll that hasn't previously used the pensions module. After that, I'll give you a bit of a demo of the pensions module itself, so explain where each option fits into your payroll process. And then finally, we'll finish things up by looking at additional support. So our upcoming webinars, or the rest of our badge series, and the Help Centre and a bit more as well. So that's what we've got in store today. Before we dive into our introduction, I do just want to run a quick poll just to see how many of you are actually using the module at the moment. So you just want to select your answer on screen and hit submit, and I'll give you around a minute to get your answers in. So I'm just going to launch that on screen now. So do you currently use the pensions module? So you might have it and already be using it. You might have it but don't actually utilise it. Might not have it, or you might not be too sure if you use it. So just get those submitted and we'll see where everyone's at. Start to see a few answers coming in there. I'll give it about 10 more seconds. Fab, it looks like most of you got your answers in there, so I'm just going to close that down. And let's have a little look at the results. So it looks like most of you have it and are actually using it, which is great. We do have a few people that might have it on the subscription, but maybe don't really know how to use it, or that don't have it at all. So yeah, this is just going to be really handy as a bit of a reminder of how to complete that setup. So with that said, let's get started. So the first thing I want to cover is your automatic enrolment duties as an employer. So this is just a bit of a reminder. So under UK pensions law, all employers must provide a qualifying pension scheme and automatically enrol certain employees into that scheme. Now, these duties do kick in as soon as you take on your very first employee. And if you're an employer before 2017, you'll probably remember your stage and date set by the pensions regulator. But today, auto-enrolment applies to everyone. So if you're starting a brand new payroll, your duties will begin on the first day that you hire your first employee. And here's what those initial duties include. So we're choosing a qualifying pension scheme that meets the minimum criteria that the pension regulator has set. You want to work out who to put in the scheme or assess your employees. And so that's based on age and earnings, just to see who actually is eligible to be automatically enrolled. You want to communicate with your staff, so explain exactly how auto-enrolment is going to affect them. And then finally, you want to declare your compliance with the pensions regulator, and all that means is you're just confirming to them that you've completed those steps. Now, most of you running existing payrolls will have already done this, but it doesn't stop quite there. So you do also have ongoing duties every time you process a payroll. And here's a little bit of what that looks like. So you do want to continuously assess your employees. So each pay run, you'll check your employees' age and earnings in case someone's criteria have changed. And that's what your pension assessment is going to be doing. You would be enrolling those employees when required. So anyone who is eligible would need to be automatically enrolled into the scheme, and that's either manually or using the pension assessment feature that's part of the module. You want to maintain your contributions, so calculate and deduct your employee and employer contributions and send that over to your pension provider. You do want to manage any requests to join or leave the scheme, so opt-ins and opt-outs, and you want to keep a record of those as well. And just on the topic of opting out, every 3 years, you will need to re-enroll any employees who have previously opted out. And that's known as your cyclical re-enrolment. But we do cover that in a separate webinar as part of this pension series. So if you do need to know a bit more about cyclical re-enrolment, then definitely get signed up for that. Now, next thing I want to talk about is the pensions module and what it is actually designed to do. So the goal behind the module is just to make all of these duties really simple. So just to take away the admin burden that's going to come with the duties that you have as an employer. So the module is made up of 3 main areas. And we'll touch on a few of these today. So if you'd like more detail, especially on the pension assessment and send pension data, we do have another couple of webinars in the series that will focus on those in a bit more detail as well. So definitely a couple of bits that you can get a lot more detail on there. So your 3 main areas of your module, that's going to include your pension assessment. So that's the process that you run after entering your employees' payments. It's going to check whether anyone needs to be enrolled and gives you options on handling opt-ins, opt-outs and postponements as well. Then have your sending of your pension data, and that's all about getting the right information to your pension provider. So there are a couple different methods that you can do this. So we have our pension reports that you can use, or there's a few providers that you can send pension data directly to the provider using our pension data exchange as well. And then last but not least, we have sending pension correspondence. And that's going to cover the communication sides that you need to send to employees. So whether they're joining the company for the first time, or if they've opted in, opted out, or been postponed, that's going to help you generate the correspondence that you need to send over to them. But by the end of today's session, once we've walked through the setup, you'll have a bit of a clearer understanding of how the pensions module is going to help you manage everything effectively. So let's talk about something that came up in the poll earlier. There wasn't many of you that answered this, but we had 6% that wasn't too sure if they were actually using the pensions module or not. So here is a really quick and easy way to check. So from your payroll tasks, you can try opening the pension assessment option. So it will just be below your enter payments. And to do that, all you want to do is set your next pay date, select an employee just as a bit of a test, and then click on pension assessment. What will happen next? So there's two things that might happen. If you see a prompt asking you to take a backup, that's going to mean that you do have a subscription to the pensions module. And once you take that backup, you'll either go straight into the pension assessment as usual, or if you haven't set it up, you'll be taken into the startup wizard, which we'll see a little bit more of in the demo. Now, the other thing that you might see, if you look at the screenshot on the right, if you see a message asking you to subscribe, that means that the current license that you've got on the program doesn't include the pensions module on there. In that case, just contact our sales team. They'll give you all the details and help you get it added if you do want to start using it. You can also double check your license using the link on the slide as well. So if you haven't downloaded the handouts, make sure to get those downloaded. So hopefully that clears things up and sets a bit of a scene of what's coming next. So we've set the scene a little bit with the pensions module. I do want to move into the demo part of today's session. So we are going to focus on how to set up the pensions module, so how to get started with it. Many of you might have completed this before, but this walkthrough should give you some useful insights and confidence if you do ever need to do it again. Now, there are two common scenarios where you'll need to complete this setup. So the first one is going to be for a brand new company taking on its first employees. So it could be a newly established business, or it could even be a company that's closing their existing pay-as-you-earn scheme and transferring to another. Then the second scenario we'll be looking at is for an existing company that maybe hasn't been using the pensions module before. They've been processing pensions manually, but they want to start using it now. So we'll look at two separate scenarios today. So the first scenario I'm going to begin with is a brand new company with 5 employees who've transferred from another employer. So their official start date and the duty start date for this one is just going to be the 1st of November 2025. So this is just a brand new setup. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring those slides down and let's get jumped into a demo. And get my payroll up. So this is a brand new company. I've already created my employees' records, as you can see. But if I just open an employee for a bit of an example, I'm going to go along to the pensions tab. And you can see I've not got any pension scheme assigned in here. And that is intentional because when you use the pensions module, the system is going to automatically assign schemes during the assessment process. So don't need to do anything manually in here. Now, I also have set up the pension scheme. So if I go to company and pension schemes, you can see I do have a pension scheme already set up for this one. So it's just a bog standard nest scheme, but I've got that set up on a company level. So I've got it set as a master trust, which has automatically selected some settings for me. And it's the standard 5 and 3%. So it is meeting the minimum. So I've got a couple of things set up already in my new company. First thing I want to do is I want to change my process date to my new company's duty start date. So I'm going to go back to payroll. I'm going to change my processing date. I'm going to pop that as the 1st of November 2025. Next thing I'm going to do, I am going to begin the setup. And I want to go to my company tasks and then into my pension module settings. Now, the system will prompt me to take a backup, and it is strongly recommended before starting this setup. Now, I do already have one saved, so I am just going to click no for now, just to save some time. And you'll come to a screen like this. So you can see here, the first screen that we come to is just entering the duty start date. And that's just the date that the company took on its first employee. For us, that is the 1st of November 2025. I'm happy with my date, so I'm just going to click start. So next page that we see, we have 3 main steps to complete. If you have multiple users, you might have an extra step for access rights, but I'm logged in as manager, so I have full access at the moment. So I'm going to start with step 1, configure my pension scheme. So I want to click do it now on that step. And you can see it has picked up my nest scheme that I've created in my company settings. And that is going to be my default auto enrollment scheme. I'm going to mark it as such. And if you do have multiple schemes, you can override defaults by department or cost centre a little bit later on, but I will be showing you that in the demo. So I'm happy with my default scheme. I do just have the one in this new company, so I'm going to save that. And I'm going to tick the box to the right just to let payroll know that I have done that first step. Next thing we're going to do is configure pay elements. So again, I'm going to click do it now. So any of my payments subject to tax and NI are automatically marked as qualifying. So you can see things like overtime, basic, bonus, but not expenses, because that typically wouldn't be taxable or NI-able. Now, all of these look correct to me. So I'm just going to save those and mark number 2 off my list. Now, the final step is flagging any employees who don't ordinarily work in the UK. So I'm going to do it now. Now, all my employees are based in the UK, so no changes needed on this one for me. I am just going to save it and tick that to signify that it's been done. So I've done my 3 main steps. Just going to click next in the setup wizard. And you can see we do have a step here to send an introduction letter. Now, this is now found under reports, not the Pension Help Centre. So with this particular step, you do just want to tick the box. The market is done, and I'll be showing you exactly where to get those letters a little bit later on. So that's the 2 main steps done. And we can see we are now all set up for the pensions module in our new company. So if I just finish this, it will return me to payroll. But I do just want to go back into pension module settings just to review what I've entered. So what you can see in this window now, you can see I've got my duty start date in there. I've got my default scheme, so I've got my Nest pension scheme, and I have some postponement options as well. We have our cyclical re-enrollment settings and our phase and checks just to ensure we're meeting the minimum contribution requirements. So everything looks good in here. I'm just going to save those settings. Now, before I wrap up this section, I do just want to show you the introduction letter that I mentioned earlier. You can do this from the reports menu just above your employee list. So you would go into reports and you want to select the employee folder just on the left hand side. And you can see you've got your automatic enrolment reports here. So if we go down, we can see we have automatic enrolment employee introduction letter, and we have a printable one and one that you can send via email as well. Now that letter is just going to give employees an overview of auto enrolment and what they can expect. It is originally designed for the businesses staging for auto enrolment when the legislation first came in, so totally up to you if you want to send it or not. It isn't mandatory, this communication, but it is there if you want to use it, and that's just in the employee folder. So that is pretty much it for a new company setup. So I do just want to quickly recap what we've done so far. So for our new company setup, first thing we did was confirm our duty start date, which was the 1st of November. Remember, if you're unsure, this is just the date that you took on your first employee. We then set up the payroll software. So we went through the 3 steps of choosing our default auto enrolment scheme. We configured our pay elements, so we chosen which pay elements were going to be subject to qualifying earnings. And we've checked any non-UK workers on the payroll. In our case, there was none, but we did go into it and take the step off anyway. So you do still want to go in, even if you know that doesn't apply to you. We then went through informing our employees. So remember, this step is optional. So the introduction letter is available from reports and your employee folder. It's there if you do want to send it out, let people know what to expect. But again, it isn't mandatory. Don't have to send it out as part of legislation, this one. So that is our setup for a brand new company all done. The next scenario that I want to look at is setting up the pensions module for an existing company. So we're just going to jump back to payroll. And I'm just going to jump into another company here. So this second scenario is for an existing company. So this might be a payroll where you've maybe been handling your auto enrollment duties manually up until now, or perhaps you've switched from another payroll provider over to Sage, and you want to start using the pensions module for your staff that's already on there. So there's a few different scenarios that might apply to you if you are setting it up for an existing company. I'm in my existing company now. So first thing I want to do is set my next pay date. So the period I'm going to start using the pensions module from. That's going to be the end of this month. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go into my company option and into my pension module settings. Now I am going to take a backup, and it is an important step because if anything does go wrong during the setup, I can just restore and start again. So I'm just going to pop that onto my desktop, and I would name it something easily identifiable. So I'm going to call this pension module setup. Now, when you are setting up for an existing company, there is quite a bit more to it than just a brand new setup. So backup is definitely important with this one, just in case you come across any errors. So we've taken our backup. The wizard is going to appear. Looks very similar at this point. So you can see it is asking for the original duty start date. And again, this is the date you first became subject to auto enrolment duties. So for older employers, this might be your staging date up to 2017. Or for newer employers, it's just the date you hired your first employee. So in my example today, that's going to be the 1st of April, 2023. I'm going to confirm my duty start date, and I'm just going to click Start. So because I've entered a date that's in the past, the system needs to know what has happened since then. So in our case, we've been assessing employees manually using another system. So I'm going to select that option and click Continue. Now, there is a warning reminding me that it's my responsibility just to ensure everything entered is accurate. So with that, I'm just going to tick the box and move on. Next thing that comes up, we do complete the same initial steps as before. So this page you are going to recognise. We want to choose our default auto enrolment scheme, which is going to be our nest. Now we do have a director's pension in here as well, but is what it says on the tin, that is just for directors, so that isn't going to be our default scheme. So I'm going to save that. We're then going to tick that off and check our pay elements. So basic, overtime and bonus we have in here, and they are all subject to qualifying earnings. So just going to save that. I'm happy with how those are looking. And again, we're going to check non-UK workers. Now, all employees work in the UK. So again, nothing we need to change. We just need to save and tick that we've done this that step. So all very similar so far. Next thing I'm going to do is we need to tell the software more about our employees. So we just really are filling in the gaps about what has happened in the past. So it does mention that this section can take around 30 minutes, but that really does depend on how many employees you have and how easily you can access your previous records. We will kind of go through it a little bit quicker here, but really just depends on the nature of your payroll, that one. But let's get started with it. So if I click do it now, see, it will come up with a bit of a warning, which is why it is definitely important you take a backup before you start this. Let's make that a bit bigger for us. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to list employees who don't currently have an active qualifying pension scheme in the record. So for each of them, we just need to state why. So for employee 2, they were auto-enrolled on the duty start date, but they opted out soon after. That's why they're not in a scheme now. But for the others, they haven't opted out or postponed. They simply just don't meet the criteria for auto-enrolment. So I'm going to select neither for those employees. Then I'm just going to hit next. Now, the next thing it's going to show is employees who do have an active qualifying pension scheme. And we need to confirm how they joined. So were they auto-enrolled? Did they opt in? Were they in it before the duty start date? Was it contractual? But in this case, all employees were auto-enrolled. So I'll tick that, select auto-enrolled, and the system has actually copied the join date as their active membership achieved date. So it's going to copy the join date from within the employee's record. So that's my employees that are in an active scheme, all sorted. Next thing it's going to ask me is for employees who have left the scheme. We might need to enter some details. So we want to say which scheme they were previously in. So for employee 2, that was just the Nest scheme. We want to say when they joined, so they were actually enrolled on the duty start date. And they opted out soon after. So I've got a record that they actually opted out on the 20th of April. Now, if you don't know the exact date, you can enter an estimate. So in my example, I've just put the 20th of April in there. But yeah, main thing is that you want the correct status assigned to them. Now, employee 6 opted out, but you can see it's actually pulled through some of their dates automatically. And that'll just be because the pension scheme is in there, in the record, with a leave date in there. So that's my opted out employees all sorted. And then finally, if anyone was postponed, you would confirm why in this section here. Now, I don't have any employees that were postponed. It would usually be because they were an eligible job holder due to pay spike or something like that. But we don't have any postponed employees. So I'm just going to click next. So we've came to the end of the setup. It's given us a little bit of a summary. So the summary is showing of 4 employees who need to be assessed. So those ones are either a new employee on the payroll or not eligible to go into a scheme. We've got our 4 employees that are in the scheme who are auto-enrolled. And we've got our 2 employees that have opted out as well. Everything's looking correct for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish the setup. I can tick that off. Now, the last thing it's going to get me to do is to send pension correspondence. So this is going to be for any historical letters. So if I click do it now, you can see the system is going to show the enrolment or job holder letters that would have been sent to the employees who are in the pension scheme. So I've got my 4 employees here. Now here, I can simply record the date it was sent if I've got it handy, or feel free to give an approximate date as well. So I'm just going to pop in maybe the 15th of April 2023 for that one. And if you want to do it in bulk, you can just use this box down here. And you can see that'll change them in bulk. Now what I'm going to do is I don't actually need to send these out because they are historical. So what I'm going to do is in this option, I'm going to choose provider and I'm just going to show as sent. And what that'll do, that'll mark them up as sent. It'll give me a record of when they were historically sent without actually prompting me to print them out or to email them across to the employees. I can confirm that now. So once that's marked off, we'll then have historical information stored within Payroll about when those letters went out, grouped by the dates that we've entered as well. So we've done our send pension correspondence. We can now tick that off the setup. So I'm going to click next, and you can see we are now done, so I can finish out of my wizard. Now again, now that I'm set up for my existing company, I am just going to go back into my pension module settings just to review everything that I've went through. So we can see we've got our historical duty start date in there. We have our default auto enrolment scheme and we have our postponement options. Now we do have a section for exceptions to the default scheme. And I do want to run through a bit of an example of that because this does come in handy. So in this payroll, I have actually grouped my directors into a specific department. So I want to group my employees by department. Now, if any director needs to be auto-enrolled, I do want them to go into a different scheme, so I can add an exception to that. I'm going to add it based on department. I'm going to put in directors. You can see I've got an option for directors pension in there. And what that means is when I have a director join or an existing director in the business, I'll make sure that they're assigned to the department for directors. And when the pension module is assessing and assigning schemes to the employees, if my employee is in that department, it will automatically put them into the alternative scheme. So dead handy if you do have multiple schemes going on in your payroll. So that's that all set up. Finally, I'm just going to check my phasing settings just to confirm that all of my schemes meet the minimum requirements, which they do. So I can go ahead and just save my settings now. So that's everything set up for an existing company. From this point on, the pensions module is going to handle all assessments, enrolments and communications all automatically. Now, I do just want to run through a bit of a recap of what we've just ran through for our existing company there. So very similar on the first bit, you do just want to confirm your duty start date. So this is the original staging date or duty start date given to you by the pensions regulator. We then just want to tell payroll what we've done so far. So we have assessed my employees manually using another system. So that might be that you've done it manually in Sage, but you've just not used the pensions module. Or you might have done it with another provider and you're changing software mid-year. So a couple of scenarios that might apply to. We've then went through to set up your payroll software. So we've chose our default automatic enrolment scheme. We've configured our pay elements. We've checked any non-UK workers. And then an additional step, we have told the system more about the employees we have on there. So if an employee doesn't have any pension history in the record, that means they're opted out, postponed, or neither. If they do have a pension scheme assigned in there, then we've classified them as auto-enrolled, opted in, joined, or contractual. And then if an employee does have a scheme in there, but it has an end date, so they've left the pension scheme, then those will go into opted out or left. So this is a bit that could take a little bit longer depending on the nature of your business. But really we want to give payroll all the information it needs to just pick up from where it left off when you do start using the module. After that, we've recorded our historical letters as already sent. So we've put some dates in there, who it was sent by, and then we've marked them as sent. And the reason why is we want to clear them down off the system. And it also means that you as an employer, although it's something that's happened historically, you still have a record of that within the system. So we then finished off by taking a look at our pension module settings. So we looked at the duty start date, so the date your automatic enrolment duties began. We looked at our default auto-enrolment scheme. So this is the default scheme that eligible staff will be enrolled into. We did look at our override of the scheme as well, so our exceptions to the default scheme. So we put directors into the director's pension using a department that we've set up. We've also took a brief look at the postponement options. Now I do want to talk a little bit more briefly about these ones. So if it's required, you can choose which pay period to align new starters to, and your pay spikes and your postponements for your 22nd birthday. Now, the postpone settings don't apply the postponement automatically, just on that note. It will just suggest a date of when to align it to. So you do have a few options there in terms of dates. And then you have your re-enrollment settings. So that's going to be your cyclical re-enrollment. And that's going to come around every 3 years since your staging date. Now, you do have a 6-month window to complete that. So you can go in and manage your cyclical re-enrollment settings and choose a date that's going to be suitable for you within that 6-month period. So definitely one to look out for, so you can have that flexibility to pick which date exactly that happens. So that was a bit about the pension module settings itself. Now, I do want to finish off with where the pensions module, now it's set up, would work into your payroll process. So these are where these options fit into your payroll process and what each one does. We will keep it high level just for today, but we do have plenty more webinars as part of the series, and where we cover some bits in way more detail. So we have a specific one around pension assessment and send pension data, or PDX, as well. So all of your pension module options are available from your payroll tasks menu or the process map, and they're grouped into pre-update and post-update tasks. So before you update your records, there are 2 key steps. You've got import pension update. So this is used if you've set up your pension data exchange, and that's one of the ways you can send your info directly to your provider. And then, of course, your pension assessment, which is the main step. So you run that immediately after entering your payments, and that's what's going to check your employee status, so their age, the wage, and applies the auto-enrollment rules automatically. Then got your post-update tasks. So after you've produced your reports, updated your records, you'll then move on to send pension data to your provider. So that'll either create the file that you need to upload or send it directly to the provider using the pension data exchange. You can review pension payments, so run a report to see what your pension contributions are going to be. That one's especially handy if you do run multiple schemes. And then finally, you would deal with any pension correspondence. So you'd be generating and sending any new letters required by legislation. Now, I do want to jump into one last demo just to run through the pension assessment option, probably the most common one, just to so you can see them in action. Now, with my existing payroll, I do actually have a new starter. So I've already set my process date and I've already entered payments. Now, the next thing you'd be doing is running the pension assessment. Now, I would expect the menu starter being auto-enrolled at this point. You can see the assessment in action here. And as expected, we do have a flag letting us know there's a change this period and my new employee has been auto-enrolled into the pension. So we can see that is active there. So we've got some people that are now over the threshold, but you can see it's picked up our opt-outs as well, and we've still got a couple of non-eligible employees. That's going to be the main step because you want to be doing this every pay period. But again, we are doing a more focused webinar on the assessment specifically, so make sure to get signed up for that if you haven't already. So just to summarise your 3 main points of the pensions module. So you've got your pension assessment. That's going to identify your eligible staff, enrol them. It's where you're going to manage opt-ins, opt-outs and postponements as well. You've got your send pension data, so you can submit your details to your provider. That's either going to be via pension data exchange or by a file upload. And then you've got your send pension correspondence, which is going to keep you compliant with communication duties. So it stores records for any audit purposes. And that ties back to the ongoing duties that we talked about at the start of the webinar. So those are going to be your 3 key features there. So that's how the pensions module fits into your payroll process or your day-to-day. But again, if you'd like more detail, remember to join us for a pension assessment session or a pension data exchange session as well. So that is it for today's webinar. I do want to wrap things up by running through some further support. Now, I do want to touch on the Help Centre. It is a great resource. You can access it by clicking on the help icon in Sage 50 Payroll, so you can get your technical support guides, our on-demand webinars and info on how to get in touch with our support team if you need to. And I do want to shout out Sage Uni as well, so you can do anything from bite-sized learning to full certifications all at your own pace. So just go to the link. It is totally free to set up an account and explore. Hi again, everyone. Really hope you've all enjoyed today's session. I will close the session down in the next minute or so. As you exit, you will see a short survey. If you please take a moment to fill that out, your feedback is really valuable to us. We would love to hear what you thought, what worked well, anything that could be improved so we can keep making these even better for you. You will also receive a follow-up email later today. It'll have a link to today's webinar recording on there and info on how to register for any future sessions. But thanks again from me and Duncan for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. It is bye for now.